What is up, people? Welcome back to Blue Chip Prospect for another podcast and not a video. This one's going to be a little different than usual because it's going to be more like Habs focus. So I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to upload this thing. Am I going to put it with the main content, or am I going to upload it on its own separately from the main content as a podcast? I have no clue what I'm going to do, and maybe I'll do something and then I change the next time. I don't know. But because it's team focus instead of being like a scouting report or a top 10 or something like that, then yeah, I don't know where I'm going with it. So we'll see. And yeah, but I thought it would be a cool idea to go through the players that I think are the best target for the Habs when they pick somewhere between 6 or 7 to 10 or something like that. Something that I would have liked to do with many teams or multiple teams, but the thing is that there's not many teams that I know inside and out like the Habs or my newly acquired fandom for Chicago. So yeah, so I'm gonna do it for the Habs because I know them inside and out, and I won't do it for anybody else, or probably not, because even Chicago, even though I know them quite a lot, the thing is that they're most likely gonna pick first, and if they pick first, they're gonna take Celebrini, and there's not much of a podcast to do there, right? So the Habs, because it's a bit more of a question mark, and then you gotta think about who's gonna be available and who's not gonna be available there, and all that good stuff. All right. So let me go through my bullet points so I can have an idea of where I'm going with this. Yeah, okay, before we start, one thing that I wanted to say is that I firmly believe that there's certain players are going to be picked in the top 5. Like, I think Celebrini, Silayev, Lindstrom, Levshunov, and Dickinson are all going to be gone by the time the Habs pick at 7, let's say. But I'm going to ignore all of this except for Celebrini, because if the Habs win the lottery, they're going to pick Celebrini. There's no question about it. They're not going to go like, oh, let's take Silayev. There's no reason to do that. They're gonna take Celebrini because he's the best player there is, and he's a center, and you know, all that good stuff. So I'm gonna ignore everybody. I'm gonna, like, Silayev, Lindstrom, Levshunov, Dickinson, they're still gonna be in the ranking that I'm gonna do, but Celebrini, I'm not gonna talk about him because, like I said, if you're number 1, you just pick him, and there's no way he's available at number 2. Nobody's gonna take another player except for Celebrini. So, yeah, I think I said everything that I wanted to say. So let's start this with the number 1, the first pick that I think that, like, if he's available at 7, you just run to the stage and you take him, and that's Ivan Demidov. Like, honestly, I would be surprised if he dropped all the way to 7, because the skill level is there's still a pretty significant gap after him. I think, like, Celebrini, then there's Demidov, and after that, if you take the intangibles and all this stuff, yes, okay, I would say Lindstrom might be close or stuff like that. But the fact is that Ivan Demidov is in another tier in terms of ceiling, at least in my opinion. So I don't think he will fall all the way to 7, but at the same time, Mishkov fell all the way to 7. And Mishkov is a good tier or 2 above Demidov in terms of ceiling again. So it's not that, like, yes, Demidov, he works harder, and he's better defensively. He's probably a more complete player and a more dynamic skater than Mishkov ever was or ever will be, probably. But Mishkov is still an amazingly cerebral player and extremely smart with extremely good shots. So I don't think he's ever gonna touch Mishkov in terms of ceiling. But anyway, I don't know why I'm talking that much about Mishkov. This podcast is not about him, it's about Demidov. so yeah, so I think that if you have the chance to take a player that is producing, I think right now he's producing something like 3 points per game or something like that in the MHL, which he shouldn't be in, but he is, so it is what it is. But still, it's just his production is just completely insane. It makes no sense that he's playing in the MHL, but that's where they're playing him. So yeah, it is what it is. But the guy, extremely skilled. He's a good skater. I wouldn't say that he's a fluid skater, but he's a powerful skater with a decent stride, and he can get some speed, and with good explosion. He probably too often used like his Mohawk stride, a bit like a Crystal last season, where he was always in a Mohawk stride to make a play, and probably gonna need to correct that a little bit in the NHL. But I mean, it's a small problem when you think about all the elite attributes that he have. He's such a good shooter, such a good playmaker. He's probably the best handler in the whole draft. Like the puck literally sticks to to his stick, and he can do whatever he wants. He can get it through your legs or your stick like 3 or 4 times in a row, and he's just extremely skilled with his hands. Probably the best in the draft. So I think if the Habs drafted him at number 7, he would instantly become the best prospect for the Habs. Like the potential for Demidov is an offensive dynamo that can create offense night after night. He has point per game potential, and but maybe more also. So it's yeah. I think it's simple. If he's there, you just take him. Like, yes, they could say a bit like last year, like, oh, it's complicated, we can't go to Russia to watch him, blah blah, we only have him on video, blah 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 blah. But the thing is, I mean, the director of amateur scouting for the Habs is Nick Bobrov, and as far as I know, that guy is Russian. I think he even worked for SKA. So I mean, maybe they can't cross scout. Like, they can't have other scouts go watch him to have a different opinion on the guy, but they can still do loads of video scouting, and they can also send their, like, the director of amateur scouting to watch him, or at least have an idea of what he's doing well, not just in video, but also see him live. I think at least I believe that a guy can go. He's probably Russian. He has a Russian name. I think so. So. Yeah, so number 1, if he's there, you run to the stage, you take Demidov, and you don't ask questions. You just take him. All right. At number 2, I have Berkly Catton, and I think that with that guy, you kind of have a 2 bird 1 stone. Or is that it? Yeah, 2 birds 1 stone. It's not 2 stone 1 bird. Okay. And because the fact is that, yes, he's an offensive dynamo in the WHL, but he's also a center. And I know a lot of people are saying, like, he might not be a center in the NHL because of the size thing. Well, not necessarily the size, because he's 5'11" or something like that. It's more like a weight thing. It's like 165 pounds. Yeah, it's time to gain some weight and stuff like that anyway. But he has the skills. He has the hockey sense. He has the skating, the effort level, and the defensive play to be a center. And he's also the fact that he's at 54% on face-off with over like 1,000 face-off attempts. So it's not like Dak. Dak, we want him as a center, but he could easily be pushed to the wing, and the guy can't take a face-off. Even in junior, he was at like 40%. So now he's in the NHL, he's still at 40%. But when he was in junior, he was at 40%. The fact that Catton is at 54% in junior, it should be something around that in the NHL too. So it's more promising, and his game is just so complete. The way, like, I made a full video about him, so if you want to know exactly how he plays, you can just go watch him. But like, he works so hard defensively, even though it's not the most consistent thing. He works extremely hard defensively. He works extremely hard in all 3 zones, but he's also such a good passer, a very good playmaker. He plays in the middle of the ice. He's not afraid to go to the middle of the ice to release a shot. He keeps scoring all the time. Like, his shot is accurate. I don't feel like it's extremely powerful and heavy, but he scores all the time. So there's no denying that his shot is something special. And yeah, so I think it's like such a good pick for the Habs if all the other ones are gone. The fact that our center depth is basically Suzuki followed by Dak, and Dak maybe is more suited for the wing. Like, it's hard to say, because if you play Dak at center, then you know that you're going to lose the puck on face-off more than half the time. So it's not extremely encouraging, because you can't really have him take defensive draws, or you have to match him with another center, but then, you don't really want to do that. And what is the other center that we have? We have like Newhook. So Newhook is just as bad at taking face-off, and I mean, I don't think he's a good center at all anyway, so I don't really count him in the center depth. And after that, it's Evans, and Evans is it's an offensive black hole. Every time the puck is on his stick, there's nothing happening, like absolutely nothing. So I think that if you can add a player like Catton, you get Suzuki on your first line, and then you get Catton on the second line, which they both have similar potential in my opinion, like in their prime point per game, two-way centers that are just extremely reliable, extremely effective in all three zones and everywhere on the ice, that can shoot the puck as much as they can make plays. So I mean, if you can have two like that, yes, I understand the size is maybe an issue, that you have two centers that are 5'11". But if on your wing you have Slavkovsky at 6'4" and you have Dak at 6'4", it can help a little bit, and maybe you can grab another player somewhere who's also big and physical and stuff like that, and you build your top six that way. So yeah, I think Catton is an excellent pick at number 2. In terms of production, the guy in the WHL, he's lighting it up. He has the same type of production as Draisaitl or Benson or Jarvis, and like if you take those players, Benson is 18 years old. He's not a great skater, and he's playing in the NHL. He even plays on the penalty kill as an 18-year-old in the NHL, so that's pretty impressive. Jarvis is like the second best player on the team that is constantly in the playoff, like with Carolina. And Draisaitl is Draisaitl. Like, it's not fair to expect Catton to become anything close to Draisaitl. But I mean, if you have Jarvis plus, like, he has the same type of energy, same type of skating. So, and Jarvis was extremely skilled, he was very good at shooting, very good at passing, a bit like Catton. So I think they are some type of similar player. But yeah, anyway, if he becomes something like Suzuki or something like Jarvis, I mean, it's really good at number 7. I don't know what else you want. It's yeah. All right. So anyway, number 2, Catton. I think it's a fantastic pick. He kind of fits the mold, except for the size. He kind of fits the mold of what the Habs are looking for. Like, skilled player, but smart players, and players that give a lot of effort in all zones. So yeah, just fits. All right. At number 3, I have Cayden Lindstrom, and Cayden Lindstrom is not at number 3 on my in my top 32. But the fact is that, like I said, the fact that the Habs lack centers, even though it might not be sure that Cayden Lindstrom's a center, you're still drafting him as a natural center, so he has a chance to be. But the thing is that, like I just said with Catton, the center depth is weak. So if you can fix it through the draft, and you have a guy that is 6'4", 200 and something pounds, and he's available to you at number 7 and can shoot the puck like he does, you just take it. Like, yes, okay, I have Dickinson and I have Levshunov over Cayden Lindstrom in my ranking, but we are not loaded with defensemen, with high-end defensemen, but we have a lot of depth in the defensive prospect pool. So if you have a chance to add a player like Cayden Lindstrom, you just do it. So yeah, so like I said, I understand the best player available, but I don't think that every team have the best player available. And if you have a guy that can skate like Lindstrom, that can shoot the puck like Lindstrom, that can just play the way that he does and has his size and all the intangibles that he brings to the table, I mean, if you need forwards, you pick that. But obviously, I understand that Dickinson and Levshunov are in a similar tier, or the same tier in terms of in terms of ceiling, even though they're different position. The fact is that that Cayden Lindstrom brings what you need to the table. So if you can, you pick him. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would pick him first on this list. I'm sure a lot of people would take Cayden Lindstrom before Demidov and Catton, but I'm not there yet because I don't think the skill level is at the same level, and I don't think the ceiling is as high. But the thing is that with Cayden Lindstrom, if it doesn't work in the NHL, and if let's say his shot doesn't translate that much, and he doesn't have much playmaking anyway, but let's say his playmaking is not great, and his shot is like a 20 goal scorer or something like that, and he's still a big guy that can skate and stuff like that, but he has so many skills that he can fall back on. Like, all his attributes and the way he plays around the net and the way that he's not scared to be physical and goes in the board and goes in the corners and he retrieves puck and he skates well across the neutral zone. Those are all skills that he can fall back on if his main skills don't translate to the NHL. So that's one thing that teams have to evaluate in terms of risk, is that sometimes you pick a player that's extremely highly skilled, but he has nothing to fall back on. If there's a, like, let's say Eiserman, for example, the reason why Eiserman is lower in the list, even though is he higher? I'm not sure, I don't have my list in front of me, but I think, Eiserman is higher on my list than he is in this list. But the reason why I have Cayden Lindstrom in front of him, even though they're both forwards and they both have like a scoring goal scoring potential, is the fact that Cayden Lindstrom, like I said, if it doesn't work in some ways, he has many skills he can fall back on. The thing with Eiserman is that he doesn't have that. If his goal scoring doesn't translate to the NHL, then you have nothing. You have a player that is skilled, yeah, but it's a player, if he can't score, what does he bring? He brings nothing. So not the same thing with Lindstrom. And he's another one that in the face of that, he's at 54% or something around that, I think. So I know some people say he's not a center because he's not the best playmaker, and people like to have the playmaker in the center and the shooter or the drivers to the net on the side, which makes sense. But I think that, I mean, if you have the luxury of drafting that guy, and you have a guy that can take face off and that can drive the net, that can make plays, that can finish plays, that can skate like he does, that have a compete level that is through the roof, you just place him at center. You put your playmakers on the wing, and that's it. All right, cool. I'm happy we're on the same line. So, one of the reasons why I think a player like Lindstrom would be a good idea is the fact that, like right now we are basically like 40-50 goals away from the contending team. And that is at 55, 56, 57 games played. So we are quite a goal behind what we need to be. But a guy like Lindstrom can help carry some of that load, if you want. Like, let's say you have a healthy team, okay? You have Kirby Dach, who can come in with 20, 25 goals. He's never going to be a big goal scorer because Kirby Dach just never scored goals. Even in junior, the max he had was 25. So he's a playmaker through and through. But he's a better goal scorer now than he was in junior, and he might get to 20, maybe 25. All right, so you add 25 goals there, and then you have Slav that's now starting to shoot sometimes. So let's say Slav goes to another 25 goals, 25 goals, same thing. You just added 40-50 goals there. Then you have a healthy season of Newhook, who might not be the best playmaker because he doesn't make plays really that much. He complements play, but he can finish play quite well, at least used to. So we'll see if he can still do it. But let's say you have a 20 goal with Newhook and he brings speed on the wing and all this good stuff. Now you're at, let's say, 60 goals, 70 goals, and then you add a guy like Lindstrom who has the potential probably for, let's say you put at the minimum the guy 25-30 goals, okay, not the minimum but like a ceiling that is something you can easily project. 25-30 goals for Lindstrom, I think you can easily project it. The way he always drives the net and the way he can shoot the puck, it's projectable, right? So now you have your 70 goals, and then you add another 30 goals there. Then you have a lot of goals, and if we have a prospect pool that is, like I said, not loaded with elite defensemen, but we are loaded with defensemen. So we aspire to be a team that is strong defensively, so not as much goals against as some of the top team in the NHL right now. I think like Colorado, they score a lot of goals, but they also get a lot of goals against. Same thing for Tampa Bay. So I think that if we aspire to be a better defensive team than that, but not to the same extent offensively, it's still like, you can close the gap that way. If you can have a guy like like Lindstrom supports some of the load for the goal scoring, and then you have your team that is healthy, which it's never going to be 100% of the time healthy, but like maybe there's some variable, like maybe Newhook gets injured and then you lose 20 goals there, but maybe that year Caulfield find his mojo back and then he scores 40 instead of scoring 19. So yeah, I think definitely we need a guy that can score goals, because we absolutely need goal. We are way behind, so we need it. There's no, like, we cannot go around it. We just absolutely need it. Whether we get it through the draft or we get it through free agency, you have to go get it. And then with our defense that should be good in a couple of years, like we have players like Ryan Backer that is going to be a mostly defensive defenseman. We have goalie who's the same thing, and so the team is built to have a good defensive structure. Then players that can move the puck forward pretty fast, but aren't necessarily great past the blue line. Like we have Matheson that is good in the offensive zone, and we have Hudson that might come and might be good in the offensive zone. But outside of that, like Ryan Backer is not going to be a game changer in the offensive zone, and same thing for Gooley, and so maybe Mayu though. So we'll see. Anyway, I'm getting lost a little bit. So yeah. So anyway, all this to say that Lindstrom would be an extremely good pick. If both were available, it would be extremely hard to make that decision, because I love Catton. Every time that I watch Catton, I'm in love with what he brings and his competitiveness and all the good stuff that he brings. But I recognize the fact that Lindstrom can bring a lot of goals, can bring size, can bring competitiveness and physicality, can bring like chaos in the offensive zone and reach and battle along the board and in the corners and retrievals. So yeah, so I will never, a guy that tell me you would take Lindstrom in front of both Demidov and Catton, I'll be like, yeah, I understand. Like I will not debate that for a second, because I 100% understand it. But in my opinion, I think the ceiling is higher with Demidov and is higher with Catton than it is with Lindstrom. And since we need so much offense, because we have nothing outside of the first line, and then we're gonna have we're gonna have Dak coming back, but we don't necessarily know exactly what Dak is gonna be, because he's always injured. So what is the real Dak? We don't know. Is he a point per game player? I don't know. Is he a 60-point player? I don't know. So we know he's a big guy. We know sometimes he just get through the team like a train and stuff like that. He has moments where he looks unstoppable, but is he going to be injured all the time? Is he going to be able to produce at a point per game pace? Those are all things we don't know. So we need offense. That's all I'm trying to say. All right. So at number 4, I have sorry I have Sam Dickinson, and that's it. Now Sam Dickinson now is the point where, like, if you pick a forward, you're kind of moving a tier down, in my opinion. Like Sam Dickinson and the next player are two defensemen, and they're two defensemen that I think should be picked before the rest of the forward crop. Like the thing is that, like I keep saying, like we are deep at defense in the prospect pool, but we are really not deep at high-end defense. Like, yes, Gooley is a good defenseman. Is Gooley a number 1 defenseman? I really don't think so. I don't think he has the offense to be. Maybe he can be a first pair defensive defenseman. Yes, and he can move the puck well from the defense to the offense. Yes, but there's no creativity in his game. Then, so yeah, no, he's not a number 1 defenseman. There's nothing to debate. He's just not. Same thing for Ryan Backer. Like I didn't like Ryan Backer before we picked him. Like, no, I didn't like, but I had it outside of my top 10 if I remember well. So I was not a big fan of the overall package. And when we picked him, I was still not a big fan. I'm not going to change my opinion because the Habs picked him, right? I'm not like that. I had an opinion the day before we picked him. I had the same opinion the day after we picked him. And this season, he gave me absolutely nothing to change that, change that opinion. I even made a top 10 of defensive prospect before the season started, or when it just started or something like that. And I had Reinbacher in the top 10 of defensive prospect around the NHL. Would I still have him there? I'm not 100% sure, but like the guy that was picked right after Reinbacher, Dmitry Simashev, I had him like super high. I don't remember where, but like number 3 or number 2, something like that. So I just love that guy so much. And like just like Reinbacher, he's not a dominant offensive player, like not at all, but he does participate into the offense, but he's not putting that much points on the board playing in the KHL, but his game is just so good. Same thing for Reinbacher. Reinbacher, I think he's going to be a top 4 defenseman. I think there's no way around it. He's a good skater. I think he's now 6'3" or something like that. Good defensive structure in his game. He kills the rush. He's good in his zone. He does everything well, but he's just not great offensively. So he's the type of guy that you have to, how can I say that? Like, to have a real number 1 defenseman, like let's say Sam Dickinson, that would be his ceiling in my opinion. He has the package of a number 1 defenseman. To create the same thing for the Habs with what we have now, we would need to pair Hudson and Reinbacher to get one Sam Dickinson. You know what I mean? Like to have a player that can do offense, that can do defense, that skates well, that can kill the rush, can kill the cycle, can box out, can skate it out, can just transition the puck quickly, break it out, and can go on the offensive blue line and make plays. Well, Dickinson can do all of that. But to do the same thing with the Habs, then you need a full pair to do the same job. So that's how I kind of define what a number 1 defenseman is a guy that the partner isn't that important. Yes, you want to pair a good partner because he's going to be playing against the best player of the other team night in and night out. But to be a number 1 defenseman, you're a guy that can do all of it, in my opinion. There's some exception, like maybe Slavin, for example. He's a number 1 defenseman and he's putting like 35 points a year. I'm not sure. I didn't check his stats recently, but it's something around that. The guy is definitely not a point producer and a power play threat and something like that, but he's a number 1 defenseman. Maybe Reinbacher becomes something like that. It's not impossible, but I think that is, how can I say that? It's like the very, very, very top, the type of ceiling that happens 1 in 100 times. So I wouldn't count on it. So in that case, I would go and draft Sam Dickinson if he was available at number 7, because he has that potential to be that number 1 defenseman, to be that guy that can do it all. You understand that? That's why I went through all this road to come back to it, is to say the fact that he's a player that can defend at a high level. He's a player that skates like the wind. He's a big guy, 6'3", 200 something. Like, I don't know. There's not much you can ask for for a defenseman that, and yeah, I think he's like even over a point per game right now in the OHL. So yeah, I mean, and he doesn't have all the ice time because Oliver Bonk gets a lot of it. So the fact that he can produce that much while not having all the ice time, and and the way he defends and the way he skates for a guy that is this big, I think you cannot pass on it. Like, you cannot take Eiserman. If you're the Montreal Canadiens, you cannot take like Eiserman or Iginla or Connelly and pass on Dickinson. It just doesn't make sense, because like I said, in our prospect pool, there's not enough of those high-end defensemen coming. Like Hudson can be, like, he has that potential to be a high-end elite defenseman, but the thing is that in the NCAA, he has issues defending. He has issues escaping pressure because he just dances all the time. So it's gonna be a problem at the NHL too. Maybe he will be able to adapt. Maybe he will be able to defend at the NHL level. But the thing is, chances are he's not going to be Quinn Hughes. Chances are he's going to be like maybe a top 4 defenseman, maybe even a third pair defenseman, because he doesn't have the skating to defend well at the NHL level. But will be able to main the first power play, and he's gonna get a lot of points that way. So yeah, we have like elite defensemen in that sense, but we don't have the complete package that Dickinson can be. So yeah. Like, I keep saying the same thing over and over again, but I really like Dickinson. In my list, I have top 3, I think. Geez, I don't even remember my list, but yeah, I think I had him top 3 or number 3 or something like that, or number 4 maybe. Something like that. But anyway, he's just really, really worth it, and I wouldn't pass on him because the potential is clearly extremely high. He's also a very young defenseman. He's a June birthday, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, you get everything. You get smooth skating, solid defensively, very good offensively, very young player. He's like second in the last 25 years in the OHL behind Bouchard for like production by 6'3" and more defensemen in terms of point per game. So I know it's like a weird ranking, but it's still like, yes, there are more productive player if you put a 5'10" or a 6 foot defenseman, but for 6'3" the defenseman is second in the last 25 years in the OHL. Like, you can take that, right? So anyway, number 4, Sam Dickinson. Great pick. I'd be very happy with that one. Even though I know most people want a forward, which is extremely understandable. I want a forward too. Like, I would rather have one of my 3 pick before I have the number 4, which makes sense, right? That's why he's number 4. But if we ended up with Dickinson or the next player, even though they're defensemen, I would be extremely happy. All right. And at number 5, the guy that I have there is Artyom Levshunov. And yeah, just like Dickinson, he has the potential to be that type of defenseman who can just do it all. He's another big guy. He's not 6'3" like Dickinson. He's 6'2", but if you watched any highlights or if you watched a game of him, the way he is built, like, he looks like a train. He like, you can fit like 2 players in his width. I don't know how to say that, but he's just so large. He looks so built for his size. I don't know what's up with him, but anyway, he's just very large. All right, it's like Frankie Bouillon. You know, he was a square. Well, Levshunov is not exactly a square because he's 6'2". He's not like 5 foot, but still, the guy is solid. All right, so what type of player is he? He can do it all. Right now, obviously, he's more offensively inclined. He's almost a point per game in the NCAA. Which, like, who does that in their draft year? There's not many players. Like right now, there's Buium does it too, but like it's not a frequent occurrence. It's not something that happens often or ever. So point per game in the NCAA is really good. So like I said, he's very offensively inclined. He's almost a 4th forward every time he's on the ice and the puck goes in the offensive zone. He plays a trailer really well. He has a very hard shot. He's a righty, so that's the thing that teams are gonna like. Like right now, the Habs, whether you pick a lefty or you pick a righty, does it really matter? I'm not exactly sure, because some of the players that we have, like Savard and Matheson, are going to be gone at some point. Matheson is like 30 years old, or in a couple of days going to be 30. And so at some point, he's going to be gone. And when those players become like in their prime. And yeah, same thing for Savard. Savard's going to be gone probably next year and stuff like that. So even though we're deep on the left side, we're still a little bit deep on the right side too, because now we have Reinbacher and Mailloux in the pipeline. And Mailloux is like, it's just every year he does more than what you expected out of him. So if it keeps going this way, he's gonna be a beast, man. Like, seriously, Mailloux is turning out to be a beast. The way he plays, yeah, I understand that he has like defensive issues sometimes. It's really not as bad as some people make it seem. Like, yes, okay, he's like the thing is, he hasn't played in so much time, right? He was stopped for like, I don't know, like 2 years or whatever because of the thing in Sweden, and now he came back. So he had the suspension, and then he played, and then he was injured, and then he came back, and now he played like almost a full season, or not even a full season last season, and this year it's like his first full season almost. So he's gaining experience that he should already have, because he should have played but he did not. So now we're kind of seeing what Mailloux is becoming, and every year we have like expectations of what he can do, and every year he just crushes through it. And like, I remember at the beginning of the season, I knew he was going to be good offensively. I didn't know he was going to be that good offensively, like top 10 in the AHL, something like that. But I was like, I know it's going to be a problem defensively, but it's not that much of a problem. The beginning of the season was rough, and then he adapted, and now I wouldn't say like he's a solid defender or anything like that, but you can put him on the ice. He's not a negative value. So if you have a guy that is like 6'3", 6'4", skates like the wind, crazy hands for a defender, and can produce really well like that, if he can defend at least NHL average, I mean, you got a real player there. So I don't know why I'm talking about Mailloux and not Levshunov, but because I was saying that it doesn't really matter if you pick a lefty or a righty, because we have depth in both, but we don't have a number one in both. So pick Dickinson of Levshunov, and I'm happy. Levshunov, like I said, is an offensively inclined player for now. Same thing, a lot of people said he was not that great defensively, and I don't agree. I think he was perfectly fine for a kid that, like, yes, he's on the older side in the draft. I think he's in October, something like that. He's October birthday or something like that. So he's on the older side. Maybe that's why he's like, his frame is so built. But still, the guy can defend. He has very good skating. He's extremely physical. He's willing to hit, and like, he's not giving his blue line at all. So maybe it's something that he's gonna have to learn to maybe sometime let the player pass and push him to the outside, and not always try to kill the plays immediately when it comes to him. So obviously there's some learning to do, but the ceiling is so high because all of his defensive game plus his offensive game, his transition game, his skating, his size, his physicality, he's gonna be so complete. So he's like he's unpredictable as a defenseman in the offensive zone. He's unpredictable in the defensive zone when he breaks out the puck. Like, he can easily skate it out as much as he can pass it out, and he's just really good at both. So yeah, I think he's he's a fantastic player. So really, you just pick the one you prefer. Do you prefer a lefty, a little bit more tame, Sam Dickinson, or you want the more aggressive player, more like rover in the offensive zone, more physically, like more physical in his play, right shot? Then you take a Levshunov. It depends really what you prefer. So, but both options are really, really good, and if both are there, it's the same thing. It's like, it depends on the team. Do you want a righty? Do you want a lefty? I prefer Dickinson overall. I think he has more chance to reach his potential because he's such a high-end skater, and because he's a young player. So he's basically like a year younger than Levshunov. So he has more runway. So I would go with Dickinson, but I think both are extremely close. So that's it. Levshunov at number 5, and another pick that I would be extremely happy with. And this is where I start to be a little bit, not unhappy, but whelmed. A bit like last season. No, I was not expecting Mishkov. I was wishing for Mishkov, because I was like, well, he's really, really good. He's a special player. And then if it was not Mishkov, I was like, well, there's always Benson. Like, yes, okay, he's a small player, but a guy is so smart and so skilled. I think he's going to make it to the NHL. I think he's going to make it very well to the NHL. He has proven that as an 18-year-old, he can produce. Like, he's not producing like crazy, but he plays really well for an 18-year-old, 5'9" player or something like that that can skate really well in the NHL, right? So I thought there could be Benson, there could be Ryan Leonard. So we had options that would have gotten me excited, even though it was not Mishkov. I didn't expect them to take Mishkov, but it didn't happen anyway. But then they went with, like I said, Ryan Backer, which I was not a fan the day before, so I didn't become a fan the day after, like I said previously. So there was not much excitement in the last draft. And at number 6, it's where the excitement kind of trickled down a little bit. Okay. And at number 6, it's Cole Eiserman, and I just made a video on him, and I was I was pretty positive on him. Like, I don't like to make videos and just like crap on people. That's not the person that I am. If I was scouting for a team like professionally, okay, I would be a lot more, how can I say that? Like, I would highlight the negatives as much as I highlight the positive. But in the video for entertainment and where I put highlights on the screen for you guys and stuff like that, I tried to keep the mood light. I tried to talk more about the positive things than the negative things. And like, you know, so we can, after the video, we can have like, you know, a good taste of the player, not like, oh, that guy, I just hate him. Okay. So I'm trying for you to go like, yeah, okay, he's an option. He's good. He's good at this. He's good at this. Good at this. He's not that great at this part of the game, but could be fixed. Blah 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 blah. Obviously, if you do it professionally, you have to dig deeper and you have to be a lot more. I'm trying to find the word. In French, it's sévère, mais like, you know, a little bit more cutthroat. Okay, I don't know what. I'm just looking for the word and I can't find it, so you gotta do what you gotta do. Anyway, number 6, Cole Eiserman. That's where I said my excitement will trickle down a little bit, but if everyone else is gone, this is where I would swing for the fences on this one, and I would go with him because you can pick him and then turn around and you look at St. Louis, you look at Adam Nicholas, you look at Frankie Boo, you look at Rob Ramage, and you tell them, get to work. Get this guy to where he can be, because like just like Demidov or Catton or Lindstrom, he has the same type of ceiling. He has a crazy high ceiling. That guy has the shot to be a 40 goal. He has the shot to be a 50 goal even, maybe. He's always going to be a finisher. He's never going to be the driver on the line. That's not what you expect out of him. I mean, if you expect that out of him, you're just not expecting the right thing. That's not the player he is. It's not the player he ever was. It's not the player he will be. Okay, to put it simple. But if you can build on his strength, and his strength is at an elite level, so if you can build on that, I mean, you can have a great player. If you can bring his compete a little bit higher, and if anybody watched the Five Nations recently, where he didn't score like crazy. He did score pretty well, but he didn't score like crazy. He was focused on winning battles. He was focused on back checking. He was focused on being a team player. It was fantastic to see. In my opinion, the Five Nation, even though he didn't score as much, it was great to see that he has that within him. He has the will to upgrade his game, to make his game better overall, to not just be the shooter, but also go into traffic and go into battles. And he has like the size to do it. Not that he's a big guy in terms of height, but he's a pretty heavy guy. He's like 195 pounds at 6 foot, so he's a heavy guy. He can get body positioning and win those puck battles, which he does plenty. And if you add the fact that he will compete defensively, we're not asking him to be Patrice Bergeron. We're asking him to just compete and be there and not be negative value. And if he can do that, then I mean, you add the fact that a guy can shoot the puck like basically no one else in the draft, then you get an amazing winger. You get a first line or a star winger on your team. So there's a lot of risk associated to it, but yeah. Like you have to take into account the fact that there's risk, but the result, if you build him up the right way and if you take your time with him, the fact that he's extremely young, is like the youngest player in the draft or something around that. It's like the 29th of August, so very, very young. There's so much runway, there's so much player to work with, that you can build something if he's willing to. And that's the job of the scouts and the director of amateur scouting, Bobrov, or all those people that work for them, that in their interview, it's on them to find out if the guy wants to work. Is he a guy that says, oh, I'm skilled, I can score, that's what I need to do? Or is he a guy that is willing to learn? Like, you talk to his coach, you talk to his family, you talk to everybody around him, you talk to the players on his team. How is he? And you find out. and you will find out if the guy is a competitive guy. Is he a guy that works hard in practice? Is he a guy that wants to win? Is he a guy that wants to be a team player? Is he a guy that wants to get better? A guy that understands that his strength is shooting the puck, but if you work harder on defense or you backtrack and sometimes you can create offense from the defense, is he that type of player, or is he a guy that is like, I'm a good shooter, I'm going to shoot the puck? That's what you have to find out. But if he has the mentality where he wants to work and he wants to get better and he wants to be the best he can be, then you pick him. And the reason why you pick him is because the guy is not only the guy is scoring at basically almost the same pace as Cole Caulfield was scoring, which he holds the record for, but it's also the fact that he's a good skater. He's a heavy guy. He has good hands. He goes in traffic. He goes to the net. He parks himself to the net. So he has things where, how can I say that? You have a physical profile in which you can work with, something that you don't have with Caulfield. So every Habs fan are extremely happy with Caulfield, right? It's the most exciting player on the team. Now everybody's talking about Slafkovsky, but the thing is, Caulfield was like our favorite player until Slafkovsky started to produce, and so Caulfield anyway. So anyway, all this to say that Caulfield didn't have that physical profile to work with. You had the skills. You had, like, I think he had maybe a little bit better skating, or maybe it's equal. It's hard to say. But anyway, he was, how can I put it? It's just Caulfield is 5'8", so there's a limit to what he can do. All right. The other one is 6 foot, 195 pounds. The limits are not the same. He can be way more effective along the board. He can take the puck from the outside and bring it to the inside, which Caulfield can't really do. Yes, sometimes he's much better at it now than he ever was before. If you look at him now, he goes to battle in the corners and he goes to battle on the board, and he tries to win puck. He tries to stop puck when players are trying to get it out. And like, he's working hard, but he doesn't have the physical tools to win those battles. If they can do the same work with Eiserman, then you get an even more effective player with the same type of goal scoring, handling, passing. So same type of player. So at number 6, I think Cole Eiserman is a very, very good risk, considering the fact that we have players like St. Louis and Adam Nicholas that seems to be a very, very good at developing players, something that I never thought I would say with the Habs. So yeah, all right. And at number 7, it's basically the rest. It's not like a player in particular, but it's more like a bundle of player of who I would still be happy to pick, and maybe some of them are even gonna go in my top 10 by the end of the year. But it's just right now, the way I see it, they all have like deficiencies, or they play a position that, like, do I want another winger? If he's extremely skilled like Demidov, yeah. If there's a lot of potential to work with, like Eiserman, yeah. Do I want another defenseman? Mostly no, but if he has the potential to be a number 1 defenseman, then yeah. So that's why I put all the rest in that kind of category of like players I wouldn't be disappointed by, but players that I'm not necessarily excited by either. So then those players, they are like Iginla, they're Yakemchuk, they're Connelly, Buium, Silayev, and Parekh. They're all players that are high end in some places in their game, in some part of their game, but that I wouldn't be so happy we drafted him. I'd be way more happy with Dickinson than I would be with, let's say, Silayev. And yeah, it is what it is, right? So just to make it simple, Yakemchuk is probably one of the biggest riser on my board. Like, how do you say that? He wasn't even ranked for me before the season. I mean, he wasn't ranked in the first round, and now he's close to my top 10, and I'm almost sure that he's gonna be in my top 10 by the end of the year, because his game, first, he's super fun to watch. The guy has crazy shot. He has 26 goals in 50 games or something like that. So like the shot is just have an explosion of a shot. He's extremely physical, so there's gonna be work to be done here, because that's one thing. Like physicality is good, it's fun to watch, but sometimes it's too much, and it puts you in a bad position, or it puts the team in a bad position because you were stuck out the play, and they got like a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-2 because of it, because of your decision to try to hit the guy instead of just pushing the guy to the outside. So Yakemchuk is a bit like that. He's gonna have to work on the defensive part of his game and the positioning, and just finding the right balance on when to go all in and hit the player, and when to like lay back a little bit, let him come at you, and stuck him to the outside in the in your defensive zone. Right. So Yakemchuk would be an exciting pick, but there's a lot of work to be done defensively. And so offensively is really good, very physical. He's a good skater without being a great skater. Like I think I already said that. I don't remember where, but sometimes you think he's a better skater than he actually is. Like he tries to skate the puck out all the time on the breakout, but sometimes players just track back on him and they take the puck away from him. It's like he doesn't know that there's somebody behind him every time he tries to break out the puck by skating. I think he's not a good enough skater to break it out by skating that much in the NHL. I think the more simple passes would be better in his case, unless he becomes a much better skater. But for now, I think he's an average skater, but everything else about his game has a ton of potential. So if he can work on the average skating part of his game, he's going to be very dangerous. After that, I have not Jerome, I have Tij He's how can I say that? Tij is a player who I like. He's a player, every time I watch, I come out happy that I watched him, but I'm not sure what the ceiling is. See, the thing is, he's a smart guy. He's a guy that works hard. He's a guy that has a big shot. He's very competitive. He has very good puck skills overall. He kind of make me think of a player like Carter Verhaeghe. Is that how you say that? Carter Verhaeghe? The guy, anyway, that plays in Florida. He kind of makes me think of that type of player. But he's 6 foot, so he's not that big. And like his skills is basically his hands and his shot. He's not that much of a playmaker. He's a bit of a finisher, a bit like Eiserman, maybe not to the same extent, but more like Eiserman. He's a finisher, but he doesn't have the same capacity to finish the play like Eiserman. So even though I know a lot of people like him because first he has the Iginla name, and then there's the fact that he works harder than Eiserman ever worked, probably. But the skills are not at the same level. So for me, I would be okay with a pick like that, but I wouldn't be like ecstatic. I would not be jumping and be like, "Yay, we have Iginla." But I might be wrong about it. Maybe the fact that he's a hardworking kid and that he has those skills and he's very competitive, maybe because of that he gets out on top and he becomes an extremely valuable, like, top 6 player in the NHL. But it's just sometimes you just expect a little bit more than that when you're picking at number 6 or 7 or 8, something like that. After that, I have Trevor Connelly. It's a player I have a hard time sizing because, like, his team is bad in general. Like, he's not really well surrounded. It's a bit like Tanner Howe. What's the name of the team? I have like a blank, but anyway, you know where Tanner Howe plays. He plays where Bedard played last year. I just don't remember what the name of the team. Regina Pats. So yeah, it's a bit like Tanner Howe. Like, he has nobody to play with, and same thing kind of happened with Connelly. There's a pretty significant gap between him and the rest of the team, and because of that, he kind of tries to do too much all the time. Like, you watch him, you're like, okay, well, this is not gonna play at the NHL, and then on the next play, you're like, oh well, this is not gonna work at the NHL either. And then he tries to go through the whole team and drive the net and try to put it in the net himself at the net. And then you're like, well, this is not going to work in the NHL either. So every plays are like well, this is not going to work in the NHL. So compared to Dickinson, where you look at him and you're like, okay, well, this is an NHL play. And then the next play, wow, this is NHL play. And then you look to the other play and you're like, wow, this is NHL play again. Well, Connelly is the exact opposite. Every play is a non-NHL play, but he basically has no support. So he kind of have to do everything himself. So, yeah, I mean, obviously in the USHL, he can use... He's not like a big guy because he's like 6'1", but he's like 160 pounds or something like that. So he's very light, but he's going the NCAA route. So he's gonna be able to put some weights on in the next couple of years. So I think when he gets a little bit bigger and he gets a little bit more support with the team that he plays, we're gonna be able to see a little bit more what he's gonna be. All right, maybe we'll have a good idea at the U18s. I don't even know if he's on the team or not, but probably. But at the U18s, if he plays, we're gonna have a good idea what he is when he plays with other very skilled players, and not when he plays for the Storm. because it just doesn't work. The fact is that he has to transition the puck himself. He has to take the puck from the boards to the inside himself. He has to do all the battles. He has to go to the middle himself. He has nobody to pass the puck to. He has nobody to get the puck from. So, like I said, you can see the skills because you can see the skill. You can see the hands. You can see the skating. You can see the vision. You can see all of this. But not much is completed because he doesn't have the support. So, and sometimes, like I said, he has to do too much. Like I said, it's a bit like Tanner Howe, where he just does everything himself. It's the same thing for Connelly, but in just a more skilled package. So I wouldn't be disappointed at all with Connelly because I think the ceiling is pretty high. He's a top 6 player all day, I'm pretty sure. I think he's gonna get there, but at the same time, just because of that little thing, I don't want to say that little thing, but because of that mistake that he did in when he was 15 or 16 or something like that, about the Jewish cross or whatever. I don't even remember. Yeah, the swastika, is that how he said that? Because of that mistake, I'm sure the Habs are not gonna pick him. They're like, they want the most angel boys possible. So I don't think he's going to be picked by the Habs. But if they were to pick him and they were to like not ignore that fact, but more like understand the fact that he worked to get out of there and he genuinely did like, how do you say that when you work for free? Like bénévolat in French, but I don't know in English. Anyway, he did like social work, whatever, to like in the Jewish community to like pay for his mistake or whatever. So he did what he had to do. He did a mistake, and I think some teams, I heard somewhere, I don't remember where, that teams have him on their no draft list, and that is, I don't want to be rude to any team. It's just, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that you would put a guy on your no draft list because of that. Does he have other attitude problems? Does he have other character issues? I don't know. I never talked to the guy, never talked to his coach that's on the teams to do it. But I mean, in terms of skills, if you completely eliminate him because of that mistake, that's wow. All right. Next subject. After that, like the other players that follows are like Buium and Parekh and Silayev. All players that I wouldn't be disappointed by, but wouldn't be like ecstatic. I think the one that I would be the happiest with would be Parekh in that case, because Parekh is like the skills are elite. Like they're in a different tier. Like Parekh doesn't belong with those players, but there's so many question marks that he has to be there. Like if you pick him at 7, you're still picking a guy that has a lot of risk, because defensively, even though he's getting better, it's still not great at all. It's not like Levshunov. Levshunov, he's getting better defensively. He's following the pace and everything, but at least there's a good progression, and he's defending well. The same thing cannot be said for Parekh, and he's not a big guy, so if the offense doesn't translate in a very major way, you're not getting much with Parekh. So, and it's a bit the same thing with Buium. Like, they're similar player in the sense that they are offensively gifted player that might have some problem defensively, but if they can fix their defense, then you have a player that will be extremely valuable. Maybe even first pair defenseman, like especially for Parekh. Parekh has that potential on him all day, every day, but like I said, the question marks are there. And like I said, same thing for Buium. He's so good offensively. He's very good at moving the puck once he's crossed the offensive blue line. But defensively, even though I quite like him, I'm not as harsh on him as other people. I think I wouldn't be super happy if the Habs took a guy like Buium, because it's another small defenseman. I don't really like small defensemen. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not a big fan of small defensemen. I want them to be big and box out player, and do their job right. So it's okay to have one, but if we already have Lane Hudson on the team, do you want another guy that is like 6 foot or 5'11" and like 180 pounds? I'm not sure. Not too much for that, but it would still be a good pick. It's just not something that I would be excited about. And the last one, Silayev. He's a guy that I'm gonna have a video on at some point, maybe soon. Who knows? But it's a guy that is too much like what we already have. Okay, we don't have anybody obviously that is 6'7", 6'8", and skate like that. Obviously, nobody has that. But all our top defensemen, prospect or young players like Reinbacher and Gooley are already that type of player. The player that can defend well, that will be physical, that will kill the rush, that will defend in their zone, kill the cycle, get the puck, move the puck fast from defense to offense with clean breakouts. And Silayev that's what it's going to be. The offensive part of his game, at least as much as I can tell and as much as I've seen, it's not great. It's not better than Gooley. It's not better than Reinbacher. So you're not getting anything special. You're getting a big guy that can skate, that had a defensive game that really grew from the beginning of the season to now. But you're not getting a guy. First, his transition game right now is really not where it needs to be. His offensive game, it's just okay. Like, I don't know. I see people who say he has a good hockey sense offensively, and I'm like, where do you see that? I feel like every game I watch him, he's just so mid. He's so, no creativity. Just trying to place puck on net, pass to the player that is free. Not trying to make plays that will create chaos in the zone or anything like that. He's not activating that much from the blue line. Like, yes, he can move east-west, but he doesn't go up and down. He doesn't move the players that much. So I wouldn't say, like, the offensive ceiling for Silayev to me is like at 30, 35, maybe 40 points. Like, if we push it, but that's just my opinion. Maybe that's not it at all. But yeah, so anyway, the reason why I said I wouldn't be so excited to pick him as a Habs is because we already have that, and he doesn't bring anything that we don't have. So in that case, I don't see why we would pick him. If you try to build the team, try to build it with things that you need, things that you don't have, or things that have like a skill that is so elite that you can't pass by, that you can't just let it pass. And Silayev doesn't have that. It's not because he's big and he's a great skater that all of a sudden he's the best defenseman there ever was. He's not. He might become it because he has the reach, he has the power, he has the strength, he has the skating, he has everything to be that guy. But will he be that guy? That is more the question. So for me, it's not a no. It's just I would still be happy. Like, I would be like, cool, we got a giant guy that can skate. It will be physical, will be extremely hard to play against, but will not bring much offensively. I'll be like, okay. Cool stuff. Anyway, that's it. Those are my choices. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know the podcast, the way I do them, they're a little bit all over the place. When I make my videos, they are really, really more structured. I have a lot more bullet points to follow, so I know where to go next. And every time I speak, every time I say something, I know where to go after. I don't do that with the podcast. I just like put a couple bullet points here and there and just talk about them from my brain to my mouth to the mic. And it's kind of hard sometimes to do it in English, because even though as you can see, I'm bilingual, but I'm not perfect. And even though my wife is Anglophone, I'm not Anglophone. I sometimes putting my words or my thoughts into words in English, it doesn't happen instantly. Looks like I'm not smart enough for it. But anyway, I'll just say that I know it's a little bit all over the place, and I do a lot of and yeah, and all kinds of little noise like that to try to gain time and try to put my thoughts together. It's gonna get better with time, so it is what it is. You have to deal with it. But with practice and more of it and more of the free-flowing conversation that I'm gonna do like that, the more it's gonna get good. So hang in there as it gets good. For now, it is what it is. You can like it or dislike it. It's not cool if you dislike it, but I mean, it's your choice. So anyway, that's it for today. If you guys have any ideas for a podcast or any questions, or a guy in particular where you want a small scouting report, not necessarily a full scouting report like I do with the videos, the highlights and everything, but just a little, another word I can't say in English, compte rendu, a small explanation of what type of player he is and what he brings to the table and where do I see him being picked, which team would he fit, or something like that. Just ask me the question that you want to ask, and I will try to answer the one that I can. And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching or listening. Peace.